Welcome to Forging Flame, a podcast that is an unconventional deep dive into creativity in all forms.
You nailed it.
No, I didn't. No, we got it wrong.
Ah, shit.
An unconventional deep dive into all forms of creativity.
I fail to see how that's different.
Well, we discussed it. It was the little word usage Anyway, that's our new
A- effort, nonetheless.
effort.
Good enough.
We're doing good. It's happening. So
who are you?
So we were just discussing the kind of the consolidated key phrase sort of thing that we're going to kind of the tagline of Forging Flame, and that kind of changed the intro of the podcast for me. So we stumbled our way through that one.
Yeah,
but now we're here.
Felt good to me.
So now we're here with Charles Burt, who is I would call him a traditional artist in a sense. Like everything he paints is very photorealistic and just has a very delicious vibe to it. I love it. And yeah, we were just sitting here chatting with Charles for a little bit before we jumped on the line because we don't personally know Charles. We know him through our mutual friend Jessica Heckel from episode 5. So yeah, Charles, how are you today, buddy?
I am well. This is great. Very excited.
Well, thank you again for being our guest on this show. And man, if what we were just kind of discussing before the podcast started has any indication on how this is going to go, I'm pretty excited in the
good luck to us.
We're going to.
No, this will be one that I think the flame buddies out there really get a kick out of. I think we'll go all sorts of fun places here. Now, also, just for the sake of due diligence, I am Nick Hinton.
And I am Ryan Selleck.
And again, this is Forging Flame, like you didn't already know that.
Featuring Mr. Charles Burt.
Charles Burt.
All right, so now the formalities are out of the way.
All right.
That's right.
We can hit the ground rolling.
Yeah. So Charles.
Yes.
We were getting a bit into your bio before we actually started recording, so I feel like that's probably as good a place to start as any. Ryan already mentioned that you were a bit of a traditional sort of artist, but who were you before you started painting? Give us a bit of your backstory there.
Okay. So I was born in Michigan. Grew up as in kind of a very traditional Catholic upbringing. We had to move to Texas in 1979 during the oil crisis. The whole state of Michigan basically shuts down anytime there's, people stop buying cars. People lose jobs, and so we moved down to Texas, and that's from there I kind of became a evangelical, and that was kind of a really big important part of my life, I think. And after that, I joined the Army, toured the globe several times, and after I retired, I didn't know what to do, so I got out and I became an artist. It kind of just sort of happened. My wife, thanks to her, I am living my dream because she helped encourage it and helped me to kind of find a way to adjust getting out. So I joined. I found out about a art program through Gage Art Academy, the Aristides Atelier. Aristides is the name Atelier. I had to look up what an atelier was, but and I learned classical painting, and that's what I've been doing for 4 years, and I'm out now and trying to create more work. I have developed a tremor. Shortly after I got out of the Army, I started to my right hand started to twitch every time like fight scenes would come on in Game of Thrones. And I was kind of worried it was the result of PTSD or something, but did the test and we found out that I have Parkinson's. And so that's something that I have to kind of battle. It causes, what Parkinson's does is your brain doesn't produce dopamine. And so as a result of that, it causes, not only the tremors, but mood swings. And so it's something that art has been very therapeutic for me with that. It gives me the focus to kind of take away those tremors if I can get focused enough. And it also, what I do is I get these little boosts of dopamine every time I have a little, wow, that really turned out the way I wanted it to, and I feel really good. I might have hours of just smashing the canvas, but I get those little breaks, and it pushes me for more, and I want that next boost of dopamine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. No, I mean that. I'm not a doctor, of course, but I mean that does make logical sense to me on some level, So, yeah.
And you mentioned too before we started that you've always wanted to be an artist too. This is something that you've wanted to do since you were a kid.
Yeah. I had this those yearbook things. I always like telling the story. Those things, where you put your report card and your favorite subjects and all that stuff when you grow up. And I found that in the basement, I was going through it, and it said first grade. It said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And it said artist, policeman. And I checked second grade, fireman, artist. And I checked third grade, carpenter, artist. And that was, and it's something I've always related myself to, but never really knew that was. Actually, I didn't even know it was a thing to be an artist, really. I just thought that it's something people did on the side, and didn't know about all the work that's involved and that people make a living doing it. That was something that we were talking before about. And it's something that I have a lot of respect for is people that are just artists. That's something that I just didn't know was a thing. Jessica, we talked a little bit about her. She's the one that showed me that you can just be an artist. And, seeing her do it, it just takes a great deal of courage, I think, to just live off of your talent and live off of your passion. And Jessica's doing it.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, she strikes me as almost nothing but passion and courage. So she's a special one. And of course, Jessica Heckel, friend of the flame, as it were. You like that? Is that catchy enough?
Maybe friend of the forge.
Friend of the forge.
Either
yeah.
one's fine.
Yeah, whatever you
her
prefer.
and I, we definitely come from like two different worlds, and I think we both look at the world very differently. But we're the best of friends, I think, because of art, and politics and religion, all that stuff goes out, because it's all about the art and that form of expression. I think that's one of the things with artists that I don't think we really we don't really care as much as far as about like kind of who you are as a person as you are, what you are as an artist. And if you're doing what you love and you have that passion, that's great. That's I might not be able to stand you as a person, but you have that passion, and I respect that. And I think that's how a lot of artists are.
Well, it speaks to authenticity, right?
Yes. That has been coming up a lot, as being authentic. And I think that's tough to do as an artist, and as a person. And you have to kind of constantly, I think, challenge yourself, and being authentic on one thing now, it might not be the same thing 10 years from now, and you've got to try to adapt with that. There are some artists that I think, I don't know, I guess it's being authentic, where they do. I've got a couple of amazing watercolor artists that they just do bottles. There's one that she just does glass bottles, and an amazing job, and is award winning, and that's what she does. That's different than my kind of art, but that doesn't mean that I don't, I have huge respect for her, because I could not do what she does.
Yeah, it's always kind of a murky area when it really is like the thing that's generating your income, right? Like on some level, it's especially if you get kind of rutted into like, this is the thing that I make and sell,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like it's just kind of a more dubious place to be in terms of like that authenticity. But if it's a thing that brings you joy, or if it's the thing that you just feel compelled to make, then I mean, I guess that's really the only thing that matters, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's a really good point, is that But with artists, yeah, we don't have to have, make this huge statement or whatever. We can just enjoy painting bottles, and I, that's what I love to do. And so we all want to do what we love, and if you can make a living doing that, then you're very fortunate.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the emotion that's attached to "ooh, pretty" is not too far removed from any other emotion that you would otherwise consider valid in terms of art and how it triggers us. But
absolutely, yeah, I think as all artists, we all give we give the viewer an experience. Is what we're giving them, and so whether it's from the soul or from just from the eyeballs, it's we're providing that experience for them. And
I think you hit the nail on the head there. That's exactly what it is for me. Like the most powerful art is just this profound like experience where I just like in the best cases there's almost no separation between me and the work of art. Like I kind of meet it in the middle in some weird way, and in that way you can almost like feel the artist and you feel kind of close to that person that created this thing. And it's like I think that's one of the things that's kind of pushed me towards art, is because I want to give that to somebody else. I want to provide that kind of thing. And for me, it was mainly music, specifically music, very cleverly matched with visual side of things. So it becomes kind of a synesthetic kind of thing. But I mean, that's kind of the same thing that I get from looking at your artwork. There's definitely a feel to it, like I can feel the warmth that, is in the canvas. Obviously we're looking at this on a computer, but I can feel that there.
Here, I'm going to go ahead and
bring up
your website.
And I want to add to that the education curator for the Maryhill Museum, Lou, she tells me that all the time, that because I always think I'll just I can paint a tree because that's what I want to paint. It doesn't matter to me. It's just a thing that I'm going to paint, and that's not the case. When you have that passion and you put yourself into it, it comes out.
Yeah,
and so that's what I'm learning. This here is a charcoal that I did. This was the one that on the first year of the atelier, that's all you do is work with charcoal. And this was my final project. These are my tanker boots. These are what armor crewmen wear.
And just so photorealistic too.
This one's amazing. And you said that this is one of the #1 paintings right now, right?
Yeah. So the Veterans Administration, the VA, they have an art competition every year, and one of the categories is oil painting, and this one got top in the nation. Right now, it's in Florida. We were going to have an actual exhibit, but apparently there's a pandemic going on, so we're going to do this. It'll be an online exhibit, but I'm pretty happy about this one. I was pleasantly surprised at how well it did for the competition.
Wow. Yeah, that looks amazing. The top part of the flag there. I can't even distinguish that from a photograph, but
yeah,
everything's just so like warm and like analog about it to me. That's what I get out of it.
And okay, so this is the thing about pretty much every single one of these is that it kind of gives off the vibe of not just photorealism, right? But having been there. And back to the bit of conversation on authenticity, the thing that strikes me about your work and like what I can see on your page here, it's not even just how incredible that use of light is to bring out that realism, but it feels like just what you felt like making. It feels like it's what was in you, and very obviously a lot of this seems tied to your military experience, and of course like some of the religious elements of your background as well. But I don't know. Nothing strikes me as more authentic than this. It very much seems like like I said, what you were compelled to make.
Yeah, this is I've got to say that this is, I feel like I am an average student in Juliet Aristides' atelier, because, well, there are fellow students that they do amazing work, and so it's really neat to be able to kind of do this. And I wouldn't, if I hadn't spent those 4 years in that intensive program, that was I was very fortunate to be able to do that. So yeah,
That's why your story is so mind blowing to me too. Sorry not to cut you off, but I think it's remarkable that you got to the actual creating side of artistry so late in life comparatively. But I mean, obviously it's something that you felt forever, right? But to be as impressively technical as you are, especially given what you have to go through to get there, it's remarkable to me. I mean, you didn't really create anything as a youngster?
I'd always I did draw a lot. I definitely drew a lot, as I liked to draw rock star profiles or something, like, that's why I wanted to be a rock star when I grew up. That's
Nice.
that would have been the life. Motley Crue and stuff like that. But I enjoyed drawing from photos and making it as real as possible. And I was always very pleased when I went, oh, that looks very nice. And yeah, so it brought it all to a new level for sure. These 4 years did. I'm very happy with what I've done and where I'm at. And it's something that, I was just a few months ago, I was still a student. And now that I'm out in the world, and I'm like, wow, this is actually pretty good work.
Yeah. You should be pretty proud, man. Absolutely. Yeah. You've got there's this, and the way that it makes me feel is like this feeling of having been there, right? Like I said, but your work has this, it's like an ethereal sort of a haze or glow to everything. It's the lighting. And I mean, it's a factor of like that lighting looking so natural, but it's just almost got this otherworldly sort of vibe. It's like a if you could physically walk through like the wispy fog of a tangible memory. That's like how it strikes me.
Wow, I like that. I'll take it.
No, but so the Parkinson's, you mentioned that before we were recording, you mentioned actually how you were able to how the paint was able to absorb some of the tremor when you're experiencing that. How is that lent to the overall presence of your work? Do you feel like that's reflected, and can you see that within the finished work?
That's a good question. Yeah. So one of the things that we had talked before about is that my brain doesn't know where my hand is in space, sort of thing, and so I bump stuff over a lot. And but so when I'm able to focus that, it really, I don't know, it forces me to get into those details, and it kind of forces me to kind of fine tune it. I will say that the Parkinson's caused me to struggle going through school, because it was just something that I had to fight with. But other than that, I don't know. I guess, with my work, I don't think I would be any better without Parkinson's as I am now. That's it. I don't see it.
That's fantastic to hear.
Yeah. It's been weird. It's because Parkinson's is something that, I kind of, for a while, I kind of tried to ignore it. And it was something Michael J. Fox had said, is that, it is you, it's part of you. And it's, that's just who you are. And so you have to kind of embrace it as that's part of me. So I do, and I embrace it with my art and with what I do, and it's something that I try to actually do with my art. Is one of the things is I like to encourage other veterans to especially the retirees that I'm living off of Uncle Sam. I'm living off your your tax money. Thanks. And
Happy to help.
yeah, and so we have these opportunities now to start a new life and to continue to do because in the Army it's very driven, very we push each other and to be the best, and so I try to continue that in what I do after the Army. And I still want to, we have a thing in with tanks. I was on tank my past life, and every year we have a tank qualification when we go out and we shoot, at plywood targets and getting graded, and you always shoot for that top tank. And that's something that I've always strived for, and that's something that I still carry with me now. Is I want to get that top tank. I want to be able to talk smack to my fellow soldiers, because them talking smack to me is in turn going to motivate me to do better. And so I think that's part of the culture that we grew up with.
It's amazing.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Just drawing on other people. I mean, I even notice it when I'm teaching people through workouts and stuff, or if I'm working out by myself. Like, I won't push myself nearly as hard as if I'm holding myself up to a standard and an entire class is in there, and then everybody pushes himself harder. So
yeah,
it's an old saying that I don't remember who said this, but whenever you go into a room, find the best person in the room and you be that. If you can't find that person, then go find another room, and always strive to find someone that's going to push you and to be better.
It's sound life advice in general.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And yeah, if you're going to bring me down, I don't, I've got stuff I've got to do, and, we could be friends and all, but, this is very important to me, and I don't need other stuff that's going to get in the way of that.
Yeah. The environment is just everything, and people are a big part of that environment.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
But you've mentioned a couple of times self-expression, and that's clearly something that's very important to you in your artwork. And it's interesting thinking about artists and their drive to move forward. And I kind of covered one of mine is that, I want to like recreate like experience. It doesn't need to be anything in particular, but you've mentioned self-expression. Like, what in particular are you expressing about yourself, and what about self-expression makes it so important to do in the way that you've been doing?
Yeah, that's a good one. I believe that I'm presenting myself in everything that I do. I'm showing who I am, and sometimes it's it might not always be the self that's really me, but I still want to step with my best foot forward, and so that's kind of how I look at it. Is that I'm always going to try to be the best. And it's tough to explain. When I was in the Army, I thought of myself as an artist as well. And I whatever I was doing, I wanted to reflect my work. And the same as I reflect my work in my painting, that was, it was a reflection of myself. So when people knew me, they knew what my art was. They knew what I stood for. They knew what my quality of work was, and so that to me, I think it just carried over into one carried over in the other. But does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Was there any ever any apprehension about that? About that's something I struggle with anyway. Is that courage it takes to be authentic and in all its glory and all its faults. I've been terrified of it for a long time. Was there any of that for you, or was it more of like a relief?
Like a fear of being seen?
Yeah.
that integrity comes to mind. And so you maintain it's one of the Army values, is integrity. And if you maintain that, you don't have to, you're always being yourself. And so, you set the standard or the boundary or whatever from the get-go. This is who I am. This is what I represent. It's not going to, there's no fear behind that, because, you're being the real you. As a soldier, I'm not going to, I don't know. I can't think of anything, I'm not going to commit war crimes or something like that. And it would be crystal clear that, if something went wrong and they knew Sergeant Burt was there, they knew that, he was going to be straight and honest. And, so that was, yeah.
So you felt obligated to express like the truest you, I guess, that you could.
It sounds more like a virtue to me. It sounds more like it's just this inherent thing, that you just adhere to. It's just
a code of
my obligation. I'm obligated to follow the rules of the Army. But my integrity will say that I'm going to always look out for my soldier before anything else. And so I think that's a good way of putting it. And so sometimes we there's ethical dilemmas that do I go hard on this guy for something, or do I try to help him out, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good example that a civilian could.
Well, you did mention that you were a drill instructor, and you said one of your tactics was, just kind of leveling with the person and saying, "Hey, you're kind of disappointing me right now," and that was more effective than making them do 1 billion push-ups.
It was. I didn't yell a lot as a drill sergeant. That what I found was effective. There was a lot of drill sergeants that they would yell and scream a lot, and I think myself as well. I had one of those drill sergeants, and after a while, you're like, okay, you're just going to yell at me some more. And when I would, I don't want to say put him on the spot, but set him aside and let him know, you messed up. This is what you did wrong. And I would treat them the same way I would treat any of my soldiers, in combat or anything. Again, it's that integrity. I want to try to maintain a certain level of. I'm going to treat you like a person, and
you're appealing to their integrity too when you're saying it in that way. You're not just putting the boot down because I can and because what I say goes, but you're appealing to that integrity in them, and I mean much more effectively developing that, because then they kind of whip their will into shape, so to speak, and if they're worth their salt, I guess.
Yeah. if they don't allow themselves to be buried by the shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And integrity, it's something that's been kind of stuck in my brain. There's a painting I'm working on right now that's what it, that's the name of it, is integrity. And it's kind of to pay homage to the soldiers that I did work with, and, those that did have, good, strong integrity and do the right thing. And so that was, it's kind of in my brain. It's one of those things that when I'm in a painting, everything revolves around that painting. And unfortunately, even friendship. And, I have lost friends because I'm in this painting right now. And this is what it is. It's just part of being an artist, I think.
That's definitely a kind of struggle that I've been through myself, especially, romantically, trying to sustain a relationship with somebody and them not really understanding like why you're doing this, why you're committing so much time towards this thing that seems frivolous. That's probably a very common theme with with artists and, you know, in general. But
to add to that, it's doing what you love. There's a good friend of mine that does horse training, and that's what she's always wanted to do, and that's what she does. And so she said that the problem with that is when you do what you love and you're passionate about it, and that's all you do, whenever you're around friends and they're talking about stuff, the whole time you're thinking about horses and horse training. And you wait for it to come up so I can, let me talk about this. And then you go back, because otherwise that's all you're going to be talking about. So.
Guilty.
I can feel that too. And it's real easy when you're doing your own thing, especially. It's real easy to just check all the way out in a conversation when like all the rest of your buddies are just bitching about their bosses or whatever. It's like, man, I can't relate to this at all.
But what I could relate to is if you had talked about that, if you had talked about your process and all that stuff, I'd be all in. But yeah, if you're just talking about, bitching at your bosses, I don't care. Tell me what you're really dealing with.
Right. Well, and one thing that you mentioned as well, you've had to overcome dealing with PTSD as well, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit? I mean, without going into anything too personally uncomfortable for you, can you talk about what got you to that point and how art has affected that kind of, I don't know, that I don't want to say struggle, because I don't know if that's what it's felt like for you, but just that that kind of ongoing relationship with PTSD.
I think it's when I noticed it was shortly when I was close to getting out of the Army. I was hitting my 20-year mark. I was actually preparing for a deployment. The unit I was with here was getting ready for deployment to Afghanistan, and that was one deployment I haven't been on, and so I was like, cool, I want to go to Afghanistan, so I have that under my belt. But these anger issues, I would drive into work and someone would cut me off, and I feel like my life was in danger, and my anger would just shoot up and it wouldn't go down. And so I'm mad the rest of the day, mad, paranoid, checking and rechecking soldiers. And I'm like, something's not right about this. I shouldn't be pissed off all the time. And it was I've always had a tough time adjusting whenever I moved to places. And so that's just kind of what I figured it was. But yeah, it started to get me to realize that I think I'm done with it. I think, and getting out, I thought, well, I'll get away from it. And I really tried to separate myself as much as possible. It's one of the things that veterans, and before I got out, I used to, give veterans a hard time about this. That's tend to be all we talk about. When I meet up with old friends, we're talking about stuff like it was last week. And, it was like a decade ago. And I learned that, it's something that, it doesn't leave you when you leave the Army. And so it stayed in there. And, basically art helped me to get that focus to, it was a huge therapeutic thing for me, because my art, especially what I do, it puts you right in that moment. Right now, nothing is more important than this, this window that I'm painting right now. And so you get in that moment, and I'm not worrying about the past. I'm not worrying about the future. It's just that. And so for that moment, got my music on, I'm listening to that, and I wouldn't be pissed off the whole day, and I wouldn't be pissed off the next day. So yeah, that was art has been very therapeutic for me with a lot of ways.
That's awesome.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just recently released an episode on suicide, as it was suicide.
I got to listen to. I didn't finish it, but anyways, yeah.
And that,
Thank
but
you.
just art therapy has been a very important topic to us lately. So it's really, really excellent to hear firsthand how much catharsis, I guess you could say, that's brought for you, given everything that you've had to kind of process, just in getting from all of the experience that you had up until you decided to kind of take that leap and take the art to another level. So that's great, man. It's manifesting beautifully.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciated that episode. Suicide is something that is very big. It's a very big problem with veterans.
Oh yeah.
I lost I had a gunner that I worked with while I was deployed to Iraq. That he was a first sergeant in the Army, so he was still active duty, and he took his life, and that hit me really hard. We went through a lot of very difficult times together, and that was tough. And so, to have an episode dedicated to something like that, it's good to get that awareness out there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, glad it's hitting in all the ways that it seems it should be. So,
yeah,
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, y'all are doing good stuff.
Thanks.
Right
man.
on.
Yeah, it's not easy to talk about, but it's helps.
Important.
It helps just hearing that other people are going through the same struggle that you're going through, and it helps just thinking about it in a different way. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about that loss, man. That's tough, man. That's I know enough about the military to know that the bonds that you form in the military, that they're very, very strong ones. Growing up, I saw that everywhere because I grew up. I was born in Landstuhl, Germany, and I grew up all over the place like many Army brats do. But that bond was everywhere. Like it was just like the bond that you see between like your friends' parents and your parents, and just you see it, you feel it too.
It's inseparable, and I have soldiers that I've worked with in the Army that I easily stay closer than a lot of family. There's just it might be a little bit different, but we are incredibly close, and we've been through a lot together, and so that is a strong bond. Another thing that I think is when you're in the Army, you are you're on top of the world, and you're doing stuff with guys that soldiers that you would never imagine to be doing. Young kids that are setting up a tank range, or putting someone in charge of multi-million dollars worth of equipment, and then you get out and you're in charge of the spatula, and like shit. Not only did I lose that bond, but I lost that that feeling of being Superman.
Sure. Well, better a spatula than a mop, though, right?
Yeah.
So okay, I want to. Well, did you have anything to tag onto that topic before we?
Not necessarily.
Switch
if you
gears a little bit.
You want to go ahead and take the reins.
Oh well, not necessarily. I just wanted to. Charles. I want to. I want to read a phrase. Just in terms of an impression of your artwork, and I want your reaction to that phrase.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Sounds fun.
All right. Reverent melancholy.
Wow, that's a good phrase. That's pretty good.
Do you feel like that's accurate to what you're reflecting?
Absolutely. That's very good. I like that. I'm gonna write that one down.
I need a chalkboard, man.
That one's free.
I kind of make it a point, especially when we're talking about because we talk to all sorts of people on this show, and it's not just artists, but you've been listening, so you're aware of that. But I always try and take what I'm experiencing when I'm viewing our guests' artwork or listening to their music or what have you, and try and break it down into just kind of as concise a format as I can. And that's the feeling, the super concise feeling that I get from what you do.
Wow. Yeah. Thanks. It's interesting. It's always interesting for me to get the perspective of, it's for the past 4 years, I've gotten the perspective of people that are doing the same thing I did. And we are, it's really, to be honest, it's 4 years of talking about each other's work that, if someone sat down to look at my painting and they're like, oh yeah, that looks good. Okay. That doesn't help me in any way. So that's been my culture for 4 years. And so now that I'm out, I have to kind of, adjust to what you see,
sure,
and what you see emotionally, because it's been what you see technically. So I really enjoy hearing that a lot. There was the painting that got me into classical painting. I took a couple classes at local college, Pierce College here, and there was a watercolor class, and I did a Medusa. For we were supposed to do a reptile, and I'm like, I'm not going to just do a reptile. And so I'm Googling ideas as far as what to do, and I came up with a Medusa. And
nice.
The feedback that I got from that was it was like, wow, I think I might be onto something here. That I could do classical work and cause people to kind of, because I would hear all these different interpretations of it, and so that's what got me into doing classical work. And so it's just weird to hear it again.
And it's super helpful as an artist too, right? That just have that other perspective, because when you get so immersed in a particular work of art, you get kind of lost in it, and you can't, at least with me and working on music, like you almost can't see or hear it for what it is anymore. And sometimes what I do anyway is I'll send a song that I'm working on to one of my friends and just get snap judgments from them, just because I'm curious how they're hearing it. And then I can use those judgments to kind of make my own decisions on what I want to do. Sometimes their judgments make me double down on something. I'm just like, no, this is way the way I want it. You're wrong. Or they might explain something in a way that I've been looking to kind of put my finger on. Has something like that been helpful to you? I mean, having Nick here, Nick's wonderful at that. I mean, he's just boom, right on the point, always with his descriptions of artwork.
But I try to give good feedback. I feel like feedback is something that like a lot of people have a hard time giving accurately. So I feel like if someone's genuinely asking my opinion for something, and I understanding you weren't asking for my opinion, right? But I wanted to share anyways. But if someone's asking my opinion, I owe it to them to like actually develop an opinion. Right? Like I need to actually give this some digestion. I need to really, really understand what it is that I'm feeling when experiencing this. And this is how it presents to me. And that's all I'm going to give you. And it's judgment free, but it's useful.
We talked a little bit about integrity. And I think that's, that adds to it is, if you can't go and, someone wrote something or whatever, and you're like, man, that sucks. You don't want to set them up for failure. And wow, that was great. Really well done. Put that out into the world. It's like, look, that you need to work on that. And so that is being a true friend, I think. But that's hard to do. That's not always easy to do to tell someone that, their work sucks. Because that's how they tend to take it.
Sure.
I think of being an artist is it's a 50-50 relationship with it's just like having a significant other, I think. And whatever there's a give and take. That I really like it when you do this. I don't really like that, but if you like it, I'll keep adding to it. And but I'm still going to also do my own thing. So I have to try to incorporate what you like with what I like, to try to get as many eyeballs or ears on my work as possible. And my the relationship might be a very small, certain specific group, or you might want to, it all depends on who you're wanting to talk to, and so anyway.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, if you're creating art with the intention of sharing it outward, it stands to reason that you're probably at least going to consider what's on the other side of that. But you referred to it as like a relationship, almost romantically, and I was waiting for how you were going to tie that into. You'd mentioned something about the insanity of artists earlier, so I was waiting for a punchline.
Yeah, no punchline. Yeah, no, that yeah.
What was it exactly that? How do we get there?
Hold on. Do you remember, Charles? We were talking about creating and.
Oh yes, that it is. Yes, it is. It is not something that rather than going out and hunting for a bear, or getting water for the tribe or whatever, you're in the cave painting make believe animals, and it's something that is counterproductive to everything, and but it's what we do, and that's that's kind of how it's something that's illogical, and the more passionate you are about it, I think just the more crazy you are, the more insane, because there's no reason why you should be wanting to stand in front of a painting for months is completely nuts. When I could be out producing something for the group. Instead, I'm doing this for myself. So but also I'm doing this for myself in that I want to try to get people to recognize it. So
sure. I feel like a lot of those cave paintings, though, right? Like, if you're in the cave, it's probably after hours, and you're in there to insulate yourself from predators, and maybe you just can't sleep, so you decide to tell a story.
Art and religion, I think, are the two big things that are those, when we talked about the byproducts of self-awareness. And I think both of those have always tied in together.
Sure.
Those cave paintings were, good omens and hopes and stuff like that. And that's that's kind of part of it. I think they've always been kind of together.
It's telling stories, that's always been very foundational to human culture, is the ability to tell stories, either by oral tradition or by art or by music. And maybe it just falls within that sort of need. Like, you get a culture, you get a tribe, you get a group of people together, and you meet all of these basic requirements, food, water, shelter, and a reasonably comfortable lifestyle, and having those basic human connections met. Then it's interesting how we as a culture, we have a big group of the civilization that gravitates towards those expressive arts. And it's almost like you have this like innate duty to almost cement your culture in time as much as you can. And I feel like that's really powerful when you look at like art from the past. Like when you look at some of the classical master painters, like they more than anything, to me, it captures like a snapshot of the human consciousness, how they were looking at the world.
Sure.
Not necessarily the world for what it was, but from what they were perceiving in their culture. And I just don't have time to look into all that stuff, but I want to. I do. I want to know everything.
Sure.
Yeah. To add to that, there was we talked before about the free time that we have, and so that was one thing. You've got time to sit around. You got a fire going. It gives you more that more free time of that self-expression, and I think as we progress, we should have more of that free time. Um,
Yeah. I keep coming back to just thinking about all these like just very early people, right? Before words existed, and the most direct form of communication was probably physical first, and then just like guttural grunts second, you know, maybe some gesturing wildly, but I can very easily imagine some very primitive art essentially being just communication, just intended to, you know,
Mhm.
maybe it's a love note, or maybe it's some toilet humor, or maybe it's telling about some strange thing that happened when the Nibiru aliens came and harvested the gold for their atmosphere, or whatever, you know, the whatever
Whatever.
the ancient aliens thing is. I
Yeah,
don't know.
whatever
Neil
that
I'm not
deGrasse
was.
well
Tyson
studied on
says
that.
that we judge all of our cultures by their art. That
Mm,
every
Mm.
we can go back as far as every the only thing that ever lasts is the art. No one cares about the politics. No one cares about
right.
you know it's everyone's art, and so that's what is is always there and always endures.
Mm. Uh,
It's it's a way more accurate representation of what people were going through than any history book can ever be.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
With me, it's almost tied into my fear of death too. Like it's almost like I want something that I do to kind of live
Sure.
past me. And that's like the closest that I can really describe it. But then it kind of falls back into that basic need that it needs to be me. It needs to be accurately represent like this experience
An
or
act of pure loving ego.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not an unhealthy form of ego, but just like, hey, I was here, you
I
know.
was here. Yep.
It's part of that byproduct of self-awareness that
Sure.
we know that there's an end to this, and that's something that we have to come to grips with. We're the only animal that really has to knows that, okay, this is all going to end, and so that's scary. That's not something that we're supposed to be able to know.
Sure.
So with that, yeah, it's a great point. I want my soul to continue on, so to speak, and so the way to do that is creating something that's going to live beyond myself. And so I think that's a really good point that you bring up.
And it doesn't even need to necessarily be art. There's all kinds of things that you can create that expand yourself, whether it's, I don't know, like here's a bad example, like a business or, I mean,
Kids.
it's kids. There you go.
That's one way.
We see these stone carvings everywhere. Like that seems to be a good method that sticks around for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were here.
Well, and you mentioned that you wanted your basically your soul to live on in some capacity. I feel like that's as good a point as any to segue into dipping back into the religion and your experience with how that affected you or helped you, or I mean, where are you at currently with religion?
Can you pull up the website?
Yeah.
Yep. Can you want to screen share that?
Yep. Just want to get.
Oh, you're gonna get it up first.
So
There we go.
while you're doing that, so it there was a project that there was the final project of my fourth year and within this class, and go down to the religion one. So I wanted to do we have the final project is you have to do a series, and what I came up with, my studio space was almost like a closet, and I didn't have a whole lot of room. So what I did was I built a window and backlit. Go back to the Judaism one.
Okay. All right.
No, I backlit it. And so the window is built behind this, and I set it up to where it's right directly behind it, and that's where the light is going. And then so go to the Christianity.
I think it's to the left, isn't it? Other way?
Yep.
Yep, too far.
Oops.
Yep, one more. There it is.
There we go.
Okay. And then so what I did with this one is I moved the light to the right side of the window, and set up the still life in the same place that the Judaism one was set up, but the light was going that direction. Then I went to the Islam one, put it on the other side, and did it that way. And then I wish I had them all three together, because
Wow.
all three together, they all kind of had that singular light. And
Yeah.
that was kind of what I wanted to represent, was that we're all just kind of we're all under the same light, in a sense. Whatever you believe, you are it's fine, but it's the same thing that someone on the other side of the planet, I don't know, has the same. It's bigger than your religion. It's kind of, I guess, the point that I'm making.
I love so much that you just said that.
Yeah, and you're getting your light from the same source.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And so what that source is the question. And because we are aware of our death, we have religion that allows us to move on, to live beyond ourselves. And that's, kind of where our soul comes in. We all have, I don't know. It's one of those things that I have studied religion throughout the world, and what I have learned, what has become my religion is science.
Sure.
Because we always learn from that, and it's something that I have a better understanding of, and a greater awe for life, for the planets that we're on, knowing how it works and how it's done and how vast it is. That to me was very spiritual, and realized that the more I know about this, it's like
the structure, the physical structure of everything.
It just, the more beautiful it became.
Sure.
And that was I think Carl Sagan had said something like that, and that was he was one of my favorites.
I love, one of my favorite places in the non-physical world is the distinct overlap between what's scientifically provable and accepted as being true, and where the woo-woo and mystic and religious starts to come into the picture. Because I feel like it's disingenuous to say that there's not some level of overlap there, of I don't know, just that sweet spot in the Venn diagram where both things are kind of true,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I kind of tiptoe around a little bit, because simply because we each have our own individual relationship with our maker.
Sure. And
everyone is different. And I can't, if you believe one thing, that's fine. That's what gets you going. And that's what, has you moving on with life. That's fine. Just if, science says, well, actually it's like this. You're not going to ignore that, because, well, I was told, this.
It's a really, really old and suspect compilation of information. I don't know.
And it doesn't diminish your relationship with your maker. I think. Right. To have a better understanding, it doesn't change anything. It gives you a better understanding of whatever it is, and there could be, I don't know, people, tarot cards and crystals and all that other stuff. It guides them in the right direction. It gives them
sure
that energy and whatever way it is, whether it's, metaphysical or placebo.
I like to think of it like a giant interdimensional jellyfish with like tendrils that we're all kind of connected to, but it's also kind of like the internet. So that's how I understand God.
There you go.
Okay. Oh God, I thought you were talking about science. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
as far as science goes, I like thinking about it as not like its own separate thing, like a particular gospel. I think of it as a moving process. You know, I'm never gonna like. I mean, you kind of always have to consider your source and everything that you're looking at. And if you're looking at a physical law that has years and years and years of repeated experiments and confirmed like peer reviews and everything, you kind of have to be like, okay, well, there's probably something there.
Yeah, that's when beliefs kind of when you have a belief, it's difficult to break away from that. And so we were told one thing about climate change, and so that's what you understood. And then now we're told something different. You have to move on. And sometimes that's hard to do because you're like, no, this is how I was taught. This is how I was told. It's difficult to transition into, okay, I was wrong about this. This is how it is now.
Yes.
That's what happens with, I think, with religion. It makes it more difficult to accept the truth. And that truth is always going to change, and it's always going to develop. And, that's science. I'm a total science nerd. And
me too.
Yeah, that's kind of all the books that I read is, Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens. Dawkins is one of my favorites. So, anyway.
Yeah, if our view of reality is constantly evolving, with new information, it's quite literally insane to just not look at the new information because it conflicts with your old previous model. And I think everybody kind of struggles with this to some degree or another because we all need to have that model of the universe. But a lot of us confuse the map with the territory. We think that this model in our head, this is it. This is exactly what's out there. And I think it really helped me with clarity to put a disconnect with that, to understand that the way that I'm viewing the world says more about me than it does the world itself. So when I'm talking about scientific stuff and like I don't really like debating people, but if like it gets to that, like I try to first of all, I always try to consider the source of my information. And if the source of my information is my own personal perceptions, then I will insert that into the statement. So instead of saying, this is this, I'll say something like, this seems like this to me, or I've noticed this. That to me is more scientifically valid than saying something is something and then having to, back it up or whatever. But like, it's valid. I had this observation. You can't tell me that I didn't, or I noticed this, or I heard this, or this person says this over here. When you frame it in that way, you can always update that information. Well, yeah, I did notice that. And yeah, this person did say that, but now all these other people are saying something totally opposite and they seem like they know what the fuck they're talking about and I don't. So I'm going to listen to them now. And it's a malleable perspective.
That I think, again, integrity, that goes into integrity because you're going to, you should trust the person that has the most experience on that certain subject. And you trust them until that person, he's been cheating the whole time and he's made up this report to make money. Okay, everything he did, just throw it out. But we have all this other peer review stuff that we can go off of peers that are, gravitating this direction. And so since this guy is smarter than I am and knows more about it, I'm going to listen to NASA about climate change, for example. See what NASA is doing about climate change because they know about this stuff. I look and see how like the military is handling the COVID, and go on a military base and try to walk on into the store or something without a mask. It's not going to happen. So I'm gonna do what they're doing because they know more about this stuff than I do.
Now I feel like we need armed guards at the bar to keep the dumbass anti-maskers out.
Yeah, or wear it down, down to your chin.
That's a good look.
That's interesting though. I mean, like I'm stealing your pen here. That's interesting. Like wanting to consider things from these particular perspectives, because a lot of people get that directly either from social media or from certain media outlets, television and everything. And that's not really the best way to get a lot of information. Like if you want to know like what the reality of is of like, you know, the pandemic or the reality of climate change is, that's brilliant. Just like, okay, well, what does NASA think? What are they saying? You know? I mean, I did see a YouTube video one time that was made by a guy. He had some real creepy music, and he said NASA was lying about everything. I mean, I kind of have to weigh that out.
Too. Yeah. Yeah. So he must be right.
I don't know. He seemed pretty confident.
Yeah.
He made an interesting case. I'm not going to call it a good one.
At least had good infographics.
Yes.
And that's I always try to find my source, and I know my source. I think that's part of being a skeptic is, you know, I'm not going to get my climate science from an oil company.
Yeah.
You know, or, you know, and anything close to that. It's whatever they have to say is not going to be the whole truth. I want to get myself from an outside source. You know, what is New Zealand saying about this? They don't have to worry about the political climate of what's happening here. We'll say, so, you know, what are they doing about it? And, you know, what is England doing? And so those are outside sources that, you know, or depending on what it is, are going to give you, you know, it might be their version of it, but if their version is the same as this one, then okay, that's the direction we go.
Yeah. I think
that goes with our you know, the FBI. I am going to listen to the FBI or the CIA before anything else. Those are people that we talked about CID. I know these people. I've worked with CID. I know how they act. I know how they are, and they are good people. Not all of them are, and so those that aren't, you know, they get theirs, but yeah, that's a whole other. Yeah,
we could wormhole hard here.
Yeah, just knowing your sources, knowing where information comes from, and also knowing and understanding the profit mechanism behind whatever you're getting your information from. You use the example of not getting your climate information from an oil company, like. I have a hard time, like, man, I'm just going to say it. Like, I've been hooked on social media since it was a thing, you know, and I have a hard time not getting any information from that. But there is an inherent profit structure there that is trying to rile me up and trying to get me to pay attention to it. And that's something I have to pay attention to. I have to consider that when I'm looking at this, that I'm on the oil places website looking about climate, you know, looking up climate change. I have to know that source, and that's tricky for a lot of people because there's this, it seems like it's an authority. It's this phone that you're constantly looking at, and all your friends are confirming this thing, and it just seems bigger than life. And it's just, well, this article says this, and that's kind of what I think. So
that's why I just try and avoid most information in general. Like,
that's a good policy.
I'm perfectly fine inventing all of my own facts about reality, because the way I figure it, right, like under a different set of circumstances, everything that is true is just as equally not true, right? And I think you can argue that about anything, because everyone on any side of any sort of a, like, you know, multi-party issue, whether it's political or scientific, like look at diet discussions, right? Veganism versus carnivore or keto, or a well-balanced diet featuring food from all the food groups, or like the old shitty food pyramid with all the empty carbs up top, you know, like you can argue so many different sides of so many different points that I personally get to the place to where I'm like, what good is this serving me? Like, I will take what I understand to be factually accurate about chemistry and science and like just earth biology, and I'll try and do what makes me feel like the least shitty being on this planet, and then everything else, like, right. I mean, you know, I'm not gonna influence how oil companies are are like treating or managing their wastes. I'm not. Like, I could go and like set something on fire. That's not really my style. I want to take revolutionary acts of protest when people are doing real ugly, gross shit globally, right? But
And
I don't have the resources for
that's
that.
brilliant, though. I mean, there's so many people that are just so locked in that cycle that they think that they think that their model is the reality of things, and they behave in that way. To me, one of the most powerful things that I've ever seen in any movie was in American History X, and it was that click moment. Have you seen that movie, Charles?
Yeah.
It's that click moment that happened with Edward Norton when his old professor was talking about his past racism and everything he's done for what he believes, and he said, "Did that make your life better at all?" And you just see that wash over his face, and that's kind of how I feel about a lot of the like anger that some people have. It's just like, dude, you have to, at some point, you have to look at that and see how that's directly affecting your life. And it can relate in that sense. In that sense, I have to put a limit to it. I have to, like, there's only so much I can really explore in terms of these like sensitive issues, to where I'm just like, okay, I have to keep focused on what I have control over.
Yeah.
So that's really guided me away from being the paranoid conspiracy theorist I was in my early 20s. But it's helped me a lot too.
You're being a responsible consumer by doing that. Is how I look at it. It's easy
Yes.
to go and access. That's what it is. We're consumers of this, this media and whatever it is. And so by shielding yourself from, eating nothing but carbs, or just taking in this same stuff that's just riling you up. That's no, you've got to step back and, okay, this is obvious. The language that is being used is obviously designed to get a rise out of me. So automatically you've lost my credibility. You've lost,
Yes.
You don't have integrity if you're going to use language that's going to try to persuade me to, go this certain direction. And nope, I'm reading an article, and, CNN, Fox, whatever, it doesn't matter. They start, using language that, I can tell it's like, oh, they're baiting me in this. You can see it. And all right, I'm done. I'm not gonna pollute my brain with it.
That's good. That's good, because I feel like that stuff just bounces around in there. Even if you don't even consider it. Like, if you're anything like me, like, and you see something that's just absolutely ridiculous, and you see right through it, you see the manipulation that's happening right there.
The shit sticks to your soul like tar.
I still can't help but pick at it like a scab. Like, it's just, it's in there. Like, even though I didn't dive into this article, I see the gross tactics. And really, when I started noticing it was before social media really hit. It was back in the Sandy Hook shooting, and everybody was on TV constantly talking about how terrible this thing was. And I'm like, this shooting was brought to you by Liberty Mutual. Like, that's fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, that you guys are perpetuating this, but being a thing by sensationalizing it. And now we're just getting that all the time on our phones, breaking news 24/7. It's rough, and it's kind of depressing to think about, but I think it's up to all of us to just understand, first of all, understand the mechanisms of what you're looking at and how they work and how they're making money and serving you to advertising companies, or companies for advertising, whatever. But also being, just like you said, Charles, being responsible about how you're consuming this information, because it does directly tie into your personal health, and not just your model of the universe, but your mental well-being is directly correlated with these things, man. Like, have either of you guys seen the Social Dilemma?
Oh, I've not.
Podcast, or not podcast, the documentary?
No.
You haven't seen? Oh my gosh, it's so good. It confirmed so many of the suspicions that I had about social media, like, deliberately, like, not only like using this platform for profit, of course, but like
literal chemical manipulation to get you to stick on the platform,
but also to take specific action. That's fucking terrifying, dude. Like, that's crazy. Like, that we have this incredibly powerful technology, and it's just like, I know, dude, every time me and Nick get together, I bum him out.
It's all right. We're gonna have to change the subject soon.
No, it's a thing though. It's something people need to talk about, because I mean, it's
I have a thing on this. The
Please.
older you are, the easier it is to get sucked into this. And
Really?
and that's something that, and the post 9/11 generation, I am confident that we are basically, and anyone that was born before 9/11, or before the internet was like big on cell phones and stuff, we see the world differently than they do. Without a doubt, 100%, they see sexuality, race, gender, all that stuff. They see it differently than we do, and our old ways of looking at the world that's not the way anymore. We're kind of living in their planet now, and they're just kind of waiting for us to kind of move on, because we can look at from the beginning, television, telephone, whatever, nothing changed the way the internet did. And what has changed with that is, these kids know how to go online and, Iran is doing this. Well, I've got this friend in Iran. Let me go talk to them and see what's going on there. And they get it firsthand. So yeah, that's that. I have faith in humanity. If we can just keep getting them to, push us out and just let them, because it's up to them now. They're going to figure out how they want this planet run. And I think it's going to be different than how it's ever been done before. They look at universal health care differently than we do.
Yeah.
They look at, a lot of the stuff different. So anyway,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'm just letting you know that there is hope.
No, I love your openness to that and to youth. And it's real easy to look at kids these days, the archetypal kids these days, and formulate some negative opinions based on things like fashion and music and whatever, right? But I mean, I feel like that newness of perspective, that lack of external pollution, I think that is valuable. So
yeah. And yeah, they are idiots. They are, they are a unique breed that I do not agree with, but with a lot of stuff. But the way they're going is going to be better than what we've done, I think.
Fingers crossed.
I can't fault
it has to be, we've dealt with every catastrophic event as a race, as a human race. Like, we've dealt with everything. Like, this is just something very, very different. Like, being interconnected with the entire planet. Like, that's a lot of implications. Like, I tend to take that perspective when I'm looking at any of these, like any of the issues going on, is I look at this huge perspective and just that, like, dude, we all lived in separate cultures in different corners of the world, and now everybody's mixed in together, and we are all connected magically. It's magic. Okay, let's just be real. It's magic.
it is.
So there's going to be an adjustment period, it's going to be rough for a while. It's not just going to be okay. Like, especially with human nature being what it is, anything weird and different is scary. And do I need to kill that, or is it going to go away? Like, it's looking at me.
If I cook it, can I eat it?
Can I eat it? Right.
The fact that we changed marriage, I think is an example of how, and look at the 80s compared to now on something like gay marriage or whatever. And, it was, so for my old self, this is, no, that doesn't happen. It's between a man and a woman, and that's it. But, I've learned, this is why, people are the way they are. And, it's good that we can, that the universal marriage thing is not going to be an issue for these kids, but it's still an issue for my generation.
Right.
for many of them, anyways.
Right. Because they grew up in that previous Judeo-Christian model where it's just like, no, this is what it is. Like you're in this universe now. You're in this universal bubble. And everything over there is evil. So this is what it is. That's wrong.
That's
And
because the alternative to creating art with your idle time is by getting real wrapped up in things like how others love.
yeah. But more to my point, it's just like not to just
Sorry.
no, more to the point is that that's your worldview. This is the bubble that you're living in. You know, like it's easy for us to look at somebody that doesn't agree with gay marriage and think that they're evil. You know, but really, they grew up in this different reality tunnel where that was just non-congruent. And like you, I'm glad that the bubble's widening, you know, where our whole perspective is growing as an entire human race because we're all more interconnected and more open. And that's just
I think we're going to come out of this COVID thing, you know, with that as well. We are very much interconnected, and for something like this that affect the whole planet, you know, and in this time, it really kind of, well, you know, the interconnection is like more real than ever before.
Yeah.
And yeah, the things I do here can affect others in other nations, and what they're doing is affecting me. And so I gotta wear my mask because it's going to affect other people.
right.
Anyway.
Well, at least you have the opportunity to affect people in a much more healthy way by
Yes.
creating. So
Yes.
And that's the best way.
Yeah.
And
it's healing.
it's the most interesting way too, because I mean, not to swing back to social media, but one of the things that bothers me about social media is like we've gotten to this tendency that we feel the need to express our opinion about everything. And you know, I was guilty of that for a long time. But I kind of sat down and journaled about it and thought about it for a while, and it's like, man, I can't really escape that. Like I feel like that's kind of part of my art. And I'm like, okay, well, if I can't escape it, then I'm going to kind of at least refine it and make it into something interesting and a little bit more powerful than just a quip.
Yes. And that's exactly what I try to do with my art is I'm going to express my opinion, but I'm going to do it in a way that isn't you're wrong, I'm right. You know, it's like, well, you know, look at it like this. And that's kind of all I want to do is just kind of have you look at it a little bit differently. And I think when we think outside of ourselves, because it's very hard for us to see outside of our own existence. And I think art does that. Art allows me to see what you're thinking and how you're feeling. And, you know, I want to do that in a way that's going to, you know, make you see the world a little bit different.
And that's when it's the most satisfying too, as an artist, that I've noticed is when you know that you like with that last brushstroke, you just like you hit the nail on the head. Like this is exactly what it is. You know, not like technical proficiency, but like this is the feeling I was going for. Like that to me is like one of the most fulfilling things I've felt as an artist is just like, all right, that's it. And then, you know, I always struggle with validation, you know, wanting to feel validated just as a human. But at that point, it's just like the validation's irrelevant. It's just like, no, that's it. I don't even care if you don't like it because that's what it is. Like
Sharing it for the sake of sharing it because it's like secondhand or no, it's like empathy by proxy, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like here is a thing that I felt.
Yeah.
And it's available for you to experience.
Connect with. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were going to say something, Charles. Sorry.
My uniform painting is that was exactly what I was going for with it, and that was something that I've gotten people. Their response was, you know, they can feel the sweat on it, or you know, they feel the weight of the uniform, and that was exactly what I was going for, was to try to get someone to be, you know, in that moment. So yeah, that's it's a good feeling when people are like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an amazing painting right there. That was I definitely I mean I feel it in that way, and I'm just getting a shadow of it just being on the screen. I have so much appreciation for paintings like this in person, and at 18 by 24, man, holy shit, I would love to stand in front of that thing.
Man, I work for a veteran owned company, and I feel like some of your stuff would look awesome in our tasting room.
Oh, hey,
Yeah.
Hotel Tango.
You ever come to Indianapolis, I'll make sure to get you set up with a nice little
there you
ticketed
go.
showing.
There you go. Yeah, that'd be great.
Man,
And
this is awesome.
And with how much focus and detail and time and attention that you give to these paintings, like to me, it really does feel like you're breathing life into it. And that's kind of how I felt about Jessica Heckel's paintings too. When I first like went to her house to jam and play music with her, and her music room's covered in her paintings, and it's just like, it doesn't feel like you're just covered with the room's just covered with pictures. It feels like the room's covered with these like living like kind of entities on the wall that they've been absorbed by so much of her precise like focus and consciousness that it's just
You got
a
that
thing
creepy
of its own.
Scooby-Doo feeling.
A
They're
little
looking at
bit.
me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that that's what's really neat about her and I think artists we push ourselves beyond, and that's how I feel about my studio. It's the same thing, that this is an extension of me.
Yes.
Would you consider it sacred space?
That's a good question. I consider every artist studio, whether it's a music painting, very sacred and very much I love going into other people's studios because it's and this is entering into themselves in a sense, and seeing who they are, and it's really neat. I always love having artists come and check out my studio as well, because it's the same thing.
Do you have any superstitious items in your studio? Anything that you might consider a talisman or a shrine or a good luck charm in your creative space?
Yes, I do. Let's see. I have a stone that my wife gave me. I'm not even sure what it is, but it's just it's something that she gave me, and so this goes with me. Like I built a easel out of a cigar box.
Oh, nice.
Basically, cigar box. You open it up, and you can paint on it, put your paints in there, and so this always goes with me whenever I take that out. And yeah, so I do. I probably actually this room's probably full of it. I have no doubt. It's like, nope, I can't keep this piece of paper because I was sketching on it when I thought of this or whatever. And so,
well, I mean, by some principles of quantum mechanics, by taking that with you, if you're painting outside of your studio, you're somewhat keeping yourself tied to that space, right?
absolutely, yeah, it is something that makes me feel comfortable, and it would be the same thing that I would do when I deployed. I would take that little charm that I had or whatever, and this is going to be with me, and this is going to give me strength, and I want to, and it works because I feel better when I have it, and so when I feel better, I can function better.
It's powerful.
I love it.
Regardless of whether or not it's real magic, it still reacts as such. So why bother splitting hairs?
Right. And it's hard to talk about this kind of stuff because like you kind of sound, I mean, I'm not saying you, but like with me anyway, like when I start talking about things that are kind of superstitious in that realm, like you start sounding a bit insane, and but the reality is we have the magical ability to imbue anything with some sort of intention or purpose or meaning. Like we have that, and we can decide at any time, like this pen means good luck. I'm going to keep this pen for good luck. And I can decide this is my good luck pen, and hey, it may actually bring me luck, or it may make me notice my good luck a little more. But the experience is really no different. It's kind of using objects in front of you or your intention intelligently and precisely to modify your experience of the world. So that's kind of what magic is to me anyway.
Prayer does the same thing.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Prayer does the exact same thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Whether it actually works or not, I don't know. And I'm not one to say, but it makes you feel better. And so, it helps in that way.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's something that I do have used to take offense to is when people are like, oh, I'll pray for you. And what they're doing is they're making themselves feel better. And by not praying for me, you're because I'm going to have this, whether you pray or not, I'm still going to have this. And by you not praying, you're kind of taking that in. And so you're carrying a little bit of that burden. When you pray, it gets released. You feel better. Yeah. So that's something that I have personally, I've learned to, accept, but I think about that sometimes that, yeah, why don't you actually carry that burden with them for a little bit?
Sure.
Rather than giving it away. So.
And it's a really tricky thing to talk about when we're talking about, like, how do you quantify the effectiveness of something like prayer that has no root in anything really purely scientific, at least, right? And
anything that we can measure anyway.
Right. And especially if you're talking about something, like cancers and such, right? Like terminal illness, man, like that, I don't even want to go anywhere near that conversation. But if you're talking about something like prosperity, maybe you've been down on your luck for a while financially, and you turn to prayer because it's the only thing that you've got, left available to you, or some sort of magical incantation for prosperity. It's just like, I kind of think of it like a dial on a radio. All you're doing is kind of adjusting your frequency, so to speak, and maybe it doesn't actually manifest in a direct receipt of that thing that you were intending. But if it makes you a little bit more open to the possibility of that taking place, mostly because you're either A, like paying better attention to those potential opportunities, or B, just because you feel a little bit less shitty throughout the course of your day. Like, I don't know, it's valid. Pray away. Pray for me. Yeah. Maybe I'll pray with you. It's your personal relationship that you have with me that we're talking about. And so if that is what you do, by all means, that's what you do. But don't, you have to be careful with that, because you also don't want to just pray away cancer and not get treated.
Right.
Anyway.
For sure.
Risky decision, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man, can we take this in a more positive direction?
I've got a question.
Okay, go for it.
That's going to totally take a left turn. But you talked about integrity as being a very important virtue to you, and that's something that if you didn't pick it up in the military, you obviously enhanced it in the military, and now you carry that with you as an artist. Is there anything else from the military, any kind of virtues that you've brought with you into your artist career?
Yes, without a doubt. There's the Army values. The integrity is one of those Army values. That's the series that I'm working on right now is the Army values. The flag painting, that one's respect. The uniform is duty. Right now I'm working on integrity. I have there's a Medal of Honor recipient that's here in Lakewood that I'm trying to track down to see if I can paint his Medal of Honor, which should be under, that's one of the values is honor. And I really, it's cheesy as fuck, but it's it's something that I carried with me, and it was one of those paintbrushes. It was one of those things that I would refer to. The creed of the non-commissioned officer. No one is more professional than I, and it's this whole long thing. I will not compromise my integrity nor my moral courage. and that's the last part of it. I will not compromise my integrity nor my moral courage. I will not forget, nor will I allow my comrades to forget that we are professionals, non-commissioned officers, leaders. And that to me is scripture. That creed of that, and those values, and the soldier's creed, all those things are, they all speak of, being a better person and, doing the right thing. And so that's something that I always strive for, is doing the right thing. And so, yes, it is definitely carried with me.
I love that. I think
That's a very good question, because it's something that it's something that I try to avoid for the longest time, but I'm just going to embrace it and see where it goes. And also then to add to this, I want to show people that aren't in the military as much as possible the culture and how a lot of us soldiers are, because a lot of us think that we see what we see in the movies, and it's a lot different than that.
Yeah, I think it's powerful to build basically your sort of your operating system in a way. You build it from these core virtues, and you focus on these virtues for what they are, and that's beautiful to me. I think you can that helps. I think it helps a lot of people build a framework to make good decisions and be a good person. For a long time, that mantle was carried by religion. Religion
Sure.
had to. I think religion served a very valuable function by carving out these set of rules that, like, hey, you got to kind of abide by this thing and not be a turd bag, and and then you'll stay in, and we won't kick you out or execute you, whatever, depending on what era. But having those foundational principles, and for it not to be rooted in anything, it's not like you can disprove respect. Like that's, like you don't, it doesn't have to be like this tangible thing. It's just like, no, I believe in respect. I believe in, how would you break down respect for somebody? Actually, that was something that, like, when you said that word, like how do you embody that virtue?
Oh boy, yeah, respect definitely has its levels, and it's when I was a drill sergeant, there was a soldier that I will never forget. I was talking to him about respect, and he was like, "No, I respect you, drill sergeant." And I'm like, "You'll know what respect means by the end of this." And that it is a whole different level, when you go through, that. And respect is, it goes to integrity, I think, because I can't respect someone who doesn't have good integrity, who isn't honest with me, who isn't truthful, who isn't upfront. Who uses that wrong language that we were talking about. I lose respect for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're still a good person, but so I think that's probably a good way of explaining respect. The flag painting that I did, I named it respect because I wanted to maintain and respect for the flag. To do a painting, to do anything with the flag is something that can very easily get mistaken for something else, or I put a star on upside down or something like that, or so I tried to maintain that respect for that flag as much as possible. And that painting that goes with it, to me, Washington was the he was the epitome of respect. He was kind of the what I still look up to for leaders, is the thing that in that painting, Washington is he's given his hand out to the Hessian general, I think it is, that was surrendering, and he takes his glove off, and that's what the painting is. He has got his gloveless hand. He's reaching out to shake the hand of his enemy. That's respect, and that is something that we're better than that. Is kind of the way I look at it. We do the right thing, and no matter what, it may sometimes bring the enemy to the advantage, but we're going to still do the right thing. We're going to make sure we're so.
Yeah,
Good question.
stuff. Now I want to hear you break down all of them. Jeez, I mean,
Yeah.
let's. I mean, if you don't mind, let's run through them because I mean, this is great. I think just like you said, I mean, our listener is going to get a really, hopefully, an expanded perception of what it means to be a part of the military because a lot of people are so far removed from that world. So
Yeah.
we covered integrity, we covered respect. What else?
Okay. Loyalty.
Loyalty. Yeah.
Loyalty is the first one. That is so that's a lot of these paintings I'm trying to figure out, and yeah, loyal to those with whom you serve. That's again also in the creed of the non-commissioned officer, and duty, which is the painting that I'm working on. That one there represents the I have my drill sergeant patch on, my recruiter badge, has my combat badge on it. That was it was my duty to do these things that weren't what I wanted to do, but I did them and I did them the best I could. So that was kind of what that duty represents, is having someone look at that uniform with that's your job. So yeah, loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service. That's the welfare of your peers and your country and all that stuff go above your own. Honor, which encompasses all, to be an honorable person, you are, all of those things. Let's see. Integrity and personal courage are the last two. And we talked about integrity and personal courage is not necessarily something that is, charging that hill. It's you see something that someone is doing, for example, and, or you have to stand up to your boss. Your boss is wanting to do something to, that isn't right, or, you don't agree with. You have to, be like, no, my personal courage is telling me that you're wrong. I've got to tell you with all due respect, you're wrong. And that is something that with soldiers is we don't necessarily have to follow orders. People think that, if I tell you to do something, you've got to do it. No. Now, you might tell me to do something, and I'm going to go through, either I'm going to get repercussions for it or whatever. But if I'm showing my personal courage and I'm this is why I did this, then chances are, I'm doing the right thing. And generally that leader is going to respect that. So those are the Army. I feel cheesy, but yeah.
No, I think that's great. Like I said before, I think a lot of today's culture has lost a lot of that kind of foundational system of principles in which to base their actions in this world. It's like once religion started going, we kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater. Like it's beautiful. It's beautiful to hear. I mean, even somebody so far removed from the military. I mean, how long ago did you get out of the military?
2013.
2013. Okay, so not that far, but I mean, how long did you serve for?
20 years.
20 years. That's not an insignificant amount of time.
I crawled to the 20-year mark.
Yeah. And I think this is actually a big philosophical discussion too, that like, I'm not going to go down that road because I'm not smart enough, but I think this is something that's been deliberated a lot. Is just like, okay, well, if we lose these Judeo-Christian values, they need to be replaced with something, or civilization isn't going to have that guidance to conduct itself in a productive and compassionate way.
The values that we have are very similar to what Eskimos have. Very similar to what there are certain things that of looking out for each other that are universal. I think that we're just kind of on the ebb and flow of it, that it's going to swing back and forth, and But for the most part, that's something that I've noticed is that no matter where you go, people still treat each other generally the same way
Right.
for the most part. And so that was something that, because I always thought if you don't have religion, then it's just anarchy, and people are like eating each other and stealing each other's stuff because there's no repercussions. But we still have to live on this world. I still got to interact with you, so therefore I'm not going to steal your stuff, because if I do, either I'm going to get put in jail, or you're not going to talk to me again because I stole your headphones. We still got to be good people.
Yes.
Unless you're deliberately ill-intentioned and trying to take advantage of those who are weaker than you in some capacity. I feel like even without religion, I mean, people are still gonna take a lot of joy in doing things for other people, like feeding them,
Always. Yeah.
like breaking bread together,
Yeah. Yeah. We have, there's an altruism to us that, is with chimps, there's chimps. You can be the biggest chimp and go through and beat everyone up, but you're going to have two chimps that are going to eventually come up, and it's going to balance itself back out where you can't do that. You might be doing it for right now, but you got to go to sleep. When you do, you're going to get a rock to the head. And that's something that it might not happen now. It might not happen, a decade from now, but it always, it's always a pendulum. It's always going to be swinging. And
the natural order of things is flawless chaos.
It is. It absolutely is. Yeah.
Man. I love so very, very much that as a person, Charles, you should probably know this about me. I am just like a crazy hippie clown who takes almost nothing seriously. My life is just one big dick and fart joke, other than the raising of little girls and whatnot. But even that's loaded with plenty of potty humor. But it's amazing that we can sit down with someone like you, who is not at all like our last guests. The episode we released today was a couple of other local podcasters, one of whom is a stand-up comedian, and the other is just a previous longtime bartender. So they've got this whole dynamic, and the show we did with them was pretty off the rails in terms of the comedy. But then we can do something like that, and then have an experience like this where there's just no way that this is not going to help and impact people in such a positive way. You're sharing your experiences with us, and moreover, and more importantly, you're sharing your art with the world, man. I think that it's a beautiful thing that you're doing, and I personally appreciate it on behalf of the rest of the world.
Nice. Well, thank you. Yeah. Because we're people that are passionate about something, and so we're gonna want to talk about it, and anything, the rest of it doesn't matter, and the rest of it really, it does, and we can disagree on stuff, but yeah, there's a respect thing that's involved with this. That you take your work seriously, you do your work with integrity. So yeah, I'm gonna always admire that, and yeah,
it's my favorite episode to date. I love this so much.
I love it too, man. Like you're a good cross section of like two of my personalities. Like just talking with you, I can tell. Like I don't even remember if we mentioned this off air or on air, but we were talking about the thing you filled out as a kid, always saying artist consistently, and to me it was just artist and soldier, and like that you're right in the middle there. So like I appreciate like the dichotomy, I guess you could call it that. I mean, because art and being a soldier, those are two very different things, but they're not, just by looking at your artwork, they're one and the same there. It's the expression of that.
Yeah. It's just different parts of the brain. And that's one of the things that it's so funny, the similarities and differences that I have been able to see being in complete opposites of different, I've shaken the hand of a man that worked for President Trump. I have, been alongside people that are, literally heroes that, and the military is their life and is their way. And so very left brain, very, logical. And then to go to the other end and to go to school that's just down the street from the CHOP. I would walk to the CHOP for my lunch. And, and it's just this total hippie commune, and it's in this hippie mecca. So, to be in with, with this completely different people, but they have that same passion, they have that same drive that, but they can't see how the other one, it's like they get pushed too far over. And so their brain doesn't see how is that even possible. And, so it's interesting to see both of these worlds, because I'm like, yeah, both y'all are idiots. You're saying the exact same thing, Yeah. But anyway, so it's been very fortunate for me to be able to see both of these worlds and to be able to express it.
Yeah, that's. I think there's something to be said also when you're in those kind of extremes. That there's some kind of quote about not oversimplifying what your ideological opponent believes, So like if I'm somebody on the far left, then for me to oversimplify something on the far right, it doesn't.
It serves no purpose.
It serves no purpose. It doesn't help you get a better understanding of what's going on. It just makes it easier to hate that person.
It reinforces fear.
Yeah, and it goes back to that language. When I'm hearing, reading a story or hearing something from, a news source, and it's obvious, this language is out. They're leaving major parts out. They're leaving, stuff like that out. And so I'm like, no, you're not. Yeah, you're just trying to make me mad. Is all you're trying to do over something that's not true. There's truth to that, but it's not the truth.
Right.
One among many.
And sometimes they're so brilliant at it that they can write a headline that will piss off both sides, like in completely different ways. Man, I can't even think. The only example I can think of is when that guy that was sending, I think it was Democrats, bombs or something a few years ago. One of the headlines that came out was Trump not claiming responsibility for Democrat bomber. It's just like, whoa, dude.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Like, I see what you fucking did there. Like, I mean, I have no dog in the race. I don't give a fuck. But like, I see that. That's fucked up.
Yeah, you're trying to piss everybody off over, yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a good perspective to a good example to use, I think.
Yeah,
because it's blatantly obvious. No matter which side of the fence you're on, you're like, yeah, come on, that's bullshit.
And yet, it's factually correct. You know what I mean?
That's right.
That's how they do it. These guys are fucking. They're these people are geniuses, man. They're Satan, but they're geniuses.
And Jefferson had the same problem. Look up Jefferson quotes on the media, and he hated them. He talked a lot of smack about the media. There's some actually really good ones. And so it's not something that's new. People think that this is a new thing. No, and they're like, well, we're consumed by it now and this and that. They were just as consumed by it then. It was just different. If all you've got is this one newspaper that tells you this, that's all you're going to go off of.
Yeah, it's just
looking up Jefferson.
Yeah,
much more accessible now. Just all the information is in our pocket. Like we have we don't have to wait for the newspaper to come out next month. Like it's all there.
Let's see. I'm trying to find Jefferson wrote on his preference for newspapers without government over government without newspapers. I should not hesitate a moment to prefer the latter.
Yeah. He's like, there's some, he does it better.
Yeah, let's see. The people are the only censors of their governors, and even their errors will tend to keep these to the true principles of their institution. To punish these errors too severely would be to suppress the only safeguard of the public liberty. The way to prevent these irregular interpositions of the people is to give them full information of their affairs through the channel of the public papers, and to contrive that those papers should penetrate the whole mass of the people. The basis of our governments being the opinion of the people, the very first object should be to keep that right, and were it left to me to decide whether we should have a government without newspapers or newspapers without a government, I should not hesitate a moment to prefer the latter, but I should mean that every man should receive those papers and be capable of reading them.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That's a really good one. That's a more articulate one. He talks. He has some more slang on some of his quotes, but and it's something that our founding fathers, that was they knew that was important. You're going to say whatever you want about your government. You can say whatever you want. You can be a newspaper and put whatever you want. That's our rights, as Americans, and it's up to us as consumers to make sure we're doing the right thing. Because if you don't have that, then the censorship and being an artist and all that stuff gets controlled, and there's no standard. The standard is you say what you want, you can say whatever you want, and then Jefferson knew that, and he hated it because they would slam him on everything. But you're like, well, I don't like that, but it's part of being a free country.
Yeah. That's an interesting hot topic right now with the whole COVID-19 thing. People covering it in different ways and getting censored, and then that's a whole hairy rabbit hole. I'm not that sounded wrong, but
I'm very much looking forward to us being on the other side of this, whatever that is.
Yeah.
The sooner we get on the other side of this, the better.
Yeah, for sure.
It's exhausting, all of it.
And it's happening. Like I don't know. I don't want to make any assumptions about where we are in the curve, because literally right now the debate between President Donald Trump and Joe Biden is happening right now. It's actually we hear it in the background over here.
I know. Yeah.
So man. I hope that all my friends, no matter what happens, I just hope they're okay. Because I worry about the mental health of a lot of people right now. And I just want all of you to be okay.
Let us know if you're not.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's, it goes for me too. Soldiers know that, if you're having a problem, give somebody a call. Give me a call. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think we're at a pretty good point to start winding down. But before we jumped on, you mentioned you wanted to give Mallory Hodgkin a bit of a shout out because you liked how she was turning form. You used those particular words. Can you tell our listener a little bit about that and how it affected you hearing her talking about it?
Yeah, that was really neat. It was something that I spent years learning how to do, and specifically how she had explained it. So it was very cool to hear. And it's basically turning form is, in the school, we learn the entire shape of an object, whether it's a sphere or someone's arm or whatever. And so what we do is we turn form of that, going from dark into the light, back into darkness. And that's something that I try to do with my paintings, and it really brings them out. When you're doing that, what Mallory had talked about was, actually, I'll get my thing here. What Mallory had talked about was how you turn form by using color, which is it's hard to do. But so if your thing is purple and you want to make it, come out of the thing, you go this direction. If you're wanting to, this direction. If you want to make it darker So wherever you're at on the color wheel, whatever direction you go is going to cause that effect of dark into light. Yeah, my guy here, William Bouguereau, we talked about him. What I did to make his forehead come out is I used different colors. And so it's by using those colors that causes. So yeah, it was really neat to hear Mallory talk about that, because I was like, oh, I spent years learning that, and here you're making these cool, things which are very clever, by the way. And so yeah, shout out to Mallory. Thank you.
Shout out Mallory Hodgkin, episode 12. She's awesome.
Another excellent episode. That was a really good one.
That was
people enjoyed that a lot.
That was a fun one, because we went all over like that. I think one of the big themes of that was that leap that she made into being a professional artist and doing it full time and min-maxing, she called it, and really
being broken like a glow stick.
Broken like a glow stick. That was one of our favorite expressions.
She had talked about the same thing, that she didn't understand the concept of being an artist. You always got a job, and so she had talked about that as well. And I was like, yeah, I can relate. I don't know how y'all do it, but that's something she's learned, and she's doing it now, and good for her. That's
great. That feels good that you resonated with that. That means other artists are going to resonate with the people that we have on too. And I think especially with this episode, man, so far, just loving it. But yeah, maybe we're doing something here, Nick.
Yeah, it feels, I don't know. It fills me with gratitude to be a part of something that's like giving people a really excellent platform, but also just uncovering all these, I don't know, these lessons and these perspectives and the way that seems to be impacting people on the receiving end is super positive. So I'm very, very thankful for that, and thankful for you for sharing your invaluable perspective, Charles.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great to hear and learn from all these other artists, and to find out the struggles that they're going through, and the artistic process is all it's neat. So good job,
man. Well,
thanks, man. Before you start
Oh,
winding it down,
you
shout out Jessica Heckel for making this happen, because Jessica very highly recommended you. So I'm definitely not gonna have her. Yeah, I'm not gonna have her recommend anyone and be like, nah, I'm not gonna check that person.
She's got exquisite taste, I found.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, she
cool.
Does.
All right. Well, so I think we can kind of wrap it up on one last thing, and then we'll give you the opportunity to shout out anything that you've got going on that you'd like to promote. But before we call it quits, what advice, if any, could you give to other active artists or others who perhaps have been in your shoes and wanted to create, but life, carries its own set of trials that might prevent that from happening? What general advice can you give to other creators or would-be creators that might be listening?
To have the mindset of do whatever you can to be able to create more art. And that is what I think as artists, our life revolves around, that is creating art. And I wish I had did that more. I wish I had, involved art more throughout my life. And it's the more you create, the better you're going to be, and the more you're going to learn. And so yeah, think about it like that. I'm going to go get this job so I can buy more paint supplies, so I can do that. And so that's, don't be afraid to get your stuff out there. That's another thing. I kept my stuff in the basement. Jessica, again, she taught me how to hang my stuff up. And now that I'm hanging my stuff up, I can see it more, and I appreciate it more, and I see it differently, and I'm more willing to get it out there in the world. And there are people that are worse than you, and you'll see this everywhere you go, that are worse artists than you, that are more successful. And that's just because they have their stuff out there. you're seeing these postcards or whatever, and you're like, this is garbage, but they're making bank off of it, and you're not, because they're doing it. So don't be afraid to get your stuff out there.
Yeah, I guess if you wrote the best and most impactful novel in the world and then never let a single soul read it, it's about as valuable as the paper it's printed on, right?
If the tree falls in the forest type thing.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Pick your metaphor, spin the wheel.
When in Rome.
Oh man. All right. Well, what can we help you promote, Charles?
Oh, I don't know. I'm excited right now that I've gotten the respect painting, got gold for the national VA competition, so I'm happy about that. I'm just right now, I don't know. I'm just keep painting, and I've always got something small going and something big going, and I there's so many artists that I would love to just shout out right now, but yeah, we'll be here another 4 hours.
Well, and of course, people can go to charlesburtartist.com to see your work there. But we do, thankfully, we've got a pretty fair amount of listeners up in your region, the Pacific Northwest. Mm-hmm. Is there anywhere that people can go to experience your art live and in person?
Yes. Right now, I have art in Karina's Bakery, which is in Tacoma. It's a wonderful bakery. A really neat part of Tacoma. What else I have? Well, I've got my piece in Florida, and that's about it right now. I just took some stuff down. I have a good artist, Sherry Vox. She is. We do collaborations where she does these abstract pour overs, and then I paint something, like over it. I'll put like a face in it or something like that. And so we had an exhibit for a while, and we just took it down fairly recently. Sold one, by the way, which was cool.
Congratulations.
We found out that one got sold recently, but no, right now I'm just I'm buckling down and painting, and I'm building up those bodies of work, and right now just see me online, I guess.
Sure. Awesome. Well, we'll send them there, and thanks again for spending the time with us, Charles. This went far better than I ever could have hoped for, and I personally got a lot of value out of it. So
yeah, same.
Thanks for all that, and I'm excited to just see what you continue to create into the future, man.
And I'm excited to see what y'all create in the future too.
Awesome. All right. Well,
we'll keep tabs on each other.
Yeah, we'll do, man. We'll do. Thank you again. Thank you again, and thank you once again to Jessica Heckel for setting this up. This is all her fault.
And thank you, dear listener, for sticking around with us for another excellent episode of Forging Flame. Be sure to join us again next week when we do it all over again with somebody else, or maybe just ourselves.
Maybe. There's no rules here in Forging Flame.
Definitely not, but enjoy it. Bye.